Attorney General Martha Coakley. With me today on my right is the Chair of the Judiciary Committee in the House of Representatives, Representative Eugene L. To my left is Senator Joan Menard, and to her left is Senator Bruce Tarr. I'm delighted to be with these three members of the legislature today to announce that in an effort to keep pace with the times, particularly after it came to our attention in the Big Dig investigation, that should a corporation be charged and convicted of manslaughter, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts could impose the princely fee of $1,000 for that. It seemed woefully inadequate given the scope of that case in particular and other cases that have since come to our attention. And I know that there was concern at the time, and we've worked with the legislators, and particularly legislators here today, to file legislation that would increase that penalty to $250,000 for each incident should there be a conviction. Looking historically, that statute, manslaughter statute, was passed in 1784, and that fee was set in 1819. And I think most people would agree that things have changed since 1819, both in terms of the economy and what that dollar amount means, but also in terms of how complicated and dangerous, frankly, life can be, the way our corporations and our business entities have changed. And as we saw in looking at the Big Dig investigation, indeed a case we have pending now, Life Care of Acton, in many instances where a practice or a protocol is dangerous, and in the event it results in a fatality, although no one individual may be responsible or have the requisite criminal intent, it's important for those of us, district attorneys and for attorneys general, to be able to investigate those practices and protocol, and in the event that culpability is warranted, found by a jury or by an admission, that there be an appropriate both punishment and deterrent by a fine. Again, corporations do not go to jail, but they do respond to monetary penalties and fines. And so we believe it is appropriate to increase that amount. We hope that we indeed can look at other such criminal statutes going forward with the legislature to see if similar kinds of adjustments to represent the reality of the economy in 2009 to bring them up to date. And with that, I'm delighted to turn the microphone over to Representative Eugene O'Flaherty.
Thank you very much, Attorney General. First of all, I'd like to thank the Attorney General for hosting this press conference here this morning. And secondly, and more importantly, to thank her for, on behalf of all of the citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, for zealously pursuing those corporations that do business here in the Commonwealth, that do not abide by our laws and engage in conduct that result in criminal culpability. Certainly this piece of legislation, I am hopeful, with the support of both my Republican and Democratic colleagues in both the House and the Senate, will pass this legislative session. I believe that the legislation as drafted would receive the support of my colleagues. I do imagine, as with any piece of legislation, there will be some details we'll have to work out, but I think the intent and the gist of this legislation is long overdue. I want to thank the Attorney General for bringing it to our attention, and not only for bringing this particular matter to our attention, but since I have been the Chair of Judiciary and since she has been the Attorney General, we have had a very cooperative relationship, not only in identifying this particular area, but as she has mentioned, many other areas where we think we can do similar work. So I am supportive of this legislation, as evidenced obviously by my signing it. I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues, and I think, as the General has mentioned, it's long overdue.
Thanks. And our co-sponsor on the Senate side, Senator Joan Menard.
Thank you. I think most of us were very surprised at the amount of the fines that we were able to impose on people who were actually found guilty of manslaughter. And so I think we're all here for the same reason, not only for this particular issue, but we're going to take a look, and the Attorney General has assured us and the representative that we should be looking at some of the outdated statutes and the amounts of the fines that have been mandated by law over the last 100 years. And I think the Attorney General told me that it was 1819 when the actual fine was set, and as most of you understand, I think we were all pretty amazed at the limit that that these people could be fined. I'm not sure that that even $250,000 prevents people from doing these things, but I do think that it will be another piece in our effort to make sure that at least there is some substantial impediment to the carelessness and some of the crimes that some of the corporations have committed. So I'm here today to be with my colleague from the House and my colleague from the Senate, and we will be working together with the Attorney General to make sure that this bill passes as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And I certainly would leave it to the wisdom of the legislature if they feel that $250,000 is not sufficient to raise it. We think that is at least required. We know that $1,000 is too small. And as I thought you were going to note, Senator, none of us were around in 1819 when that was determined. So I'm pleased to next introduce Senator Bruce Tarr.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Good morning. And I'm pleased to inform everyone that I, too, was not here in the 1800s. But I think that the proposition that's before us is very simple. When we have 2009 crimes being committed, they should not be penalized with 1800s penalties. There's a clear need to update this statute, and that was made shockingly aware to all of us when we saw the incidents that arose from the Big Dig, where we had clearly strong criminal culpability and yet a tremendous inadequacy of the statutes of the Commonwealth to be able to address that culpability. We've been trying to address this now for some time, and I'm very pleased that last year's efforts that we initiated in the legislature are now being given a tremendous boost that is accompanied or caused by the support of the Attorney General. And I want to say particularly thanks to Attorney General Coakley for her leadership on this issue. And I am confident that through her work and her leadership, and also with the work of my colleagues, Representative O'Flaherty as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and also Senator Menard with the pivotal role that she plays in the Senate, that this will be the year and this will be the session that we finally update this statute to reflect the degree of penalty that it should have. If we're going to have laws in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and we're going to enforce those laws, they need to mean something. And simply put, a $1,000 penalty to a large corporation that commits corporate manslaughter does not mean enough. We need to up the penalty. I, too, might like to see a higher penalty, but, you know, the details of this aren't important right now. What is important is the unanimity of support that's reflected here at this podium, and I think across the breadth of the legislature and the House and the Senate, to get this job done and to say that we are going to have a penalty that means something, and we are going to stand behind that penalty. So today, while it is unfortunate that these things often need to be brought to our attention by tragedy and by wrongful misdoings, today I'm also optimistic that we're going to stand as a Commonwealth and address those misdeeds with the penalties that they deserve. So thank you all.